Richard Mallory, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. In early December 1989, 51-year-old Richard Mallory, an electronics store owner from Clearwater, Florida, vanished during a drive along the East Coast. December 13th, his body was found in a wooded area of Volusia County. He'd been shot multiple times with a .22 caliber. Investigators later tied his homicide to a series of roadside shootings committed by Eileen Wuornos. Mallory, like every victim here, was more than a case file. He ran a small business, had people who expected him home, and a routine that should have been safe. His murder became the first in a chain that exposed Wuornos' method: isolate a driver on Florida's highways, then kill and abandon. We remember Richard for the life he lived, not the headlines that followed. David Andrew Spears, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. May 1990, 43-year-old David Spears, a construction worker out of Winter Garden, set out on a trip north. On June 1st, deputies found his nude body off US 19 in Citrus County, 6 gunshot wounds from a .22 caliber. Spears was a blue-collar guy who clocked in, sent paychecks home, and kept moving. His death added urgency to what would become a multi-county manhunt, as investigators started to see a pattern of lone male motorists turning up shot along rural Florida corridors. He is remembered by family for his work ethic and the steadiness he brought to everyday life. Charles E. Carskaddon, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. June 6, 1990, the body of Charles Chuck Carskaddon, 40, was discovered off a road in Pasco County, Florida. He'd been shot multiple times with a .22, a signature repeating across cases. Carskaddon was on the move for work, like a lot of folks who live by highway schedules and cash wages. The investigation linked his homicide to a spree that was accelerating across Central and North Florida routes. Loved ones remember him as loyal and quick with a joke. We place the focus on Charles as a person, someone whose trip should have ended back home. Peter Abraham Siems, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. June 7, 1990, Peter Siems, 65, a retired merchant seaman, left Jupiter, Florida for a visit to relatives and never arrived. Weeks later, his car surfaced in Ormond Beach. Witnesses later tied 2 women to the vehicle after a crash. Siems's remains were never found, making identification and closure impossible for his family. He was a grandfather, a traveler, a man who'd done his decades of work and earned safe roads. His case gave investigators key forensic and witness threads that ultimately helped stop a killer. We remember Peter for the life he built and the family that still misses him. Troy Dale Burris, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. July 30th, 1990, Troy Burris, 50, a sausage delivery driver from Ocala, left on a routine route and didn't return. On August 4th, his body was found in Marion County, shot with a .22. Burris's disappearance hit hard because everything about his day was ordinary. Delivery manifests, miles to cover, customers expecting him. The ordinariness is what makes these cases brutal. A working man doing his job, intercepted and erased. His family and co-workers remember a dependable, warm man who kept his commitments and looked out for others. Charles Dick Humphreys, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. September 12, 1990, Charles Dick Humphreys, 56, retired Air Force major and a child protection investigator for the state, was found shot multiple times in Marion County. Humphreys spent a career protecting vulnerable kids. He was driving alone when he crossed paths with a predator. His case rattled colleagues across Florida. Someone dedicated to safeguarding others had been targeted on an empty stretch of road. Loved ones describe him as principled, funny, and quiet ways. And completely devoted to family, we honor the work he did and the people he loved. Walter Gino Antonio, murdered by serial killer Eileen Wuornos. November 19, 1990, hunters discovered the body of Walter Antonio, 62, off a logging road in Dixie County, Florida. He'd been shot 4 times. Antonio was the last confirmed homicide in the Wuornos series before her arrest weeks later. A father and friend with deep Florida roots, he is remembered for his patience and calm. His killing underscored the danger of isolated back roads and the urgency with which investigators had to connect multi-county dots. We say Walter's name for the person he was, not for the notoriety attached to his death. Robin Samsoe, murdered by serial killer Rodney Alcala. On June 20th, 1979, Robin Samsoe, 12, left Huntington Beach for ballet and never made it home. Witnesses recalled a photographer at the beach asking girls to pose. Weeks later, Robin's remains were found in the Santa Ana Mountains. Her case became the anchor of the Rodney Alcala prosecutions in California, and her mother's persistence helped push the case through retrials and appeals. Robin loved dance, bikes, and summer daylight, the normal stuff that should be safe for a kid. We remember Robin for her joy and the devotion of a family that refused to let her name be lost. Jill Barcomb, murdered by serial killer Rodney Alcala. November 10, 1977, the body of Jill Barcomb, 18, new to Los Angeles after moving from New York, was found in the Hollywood Hills. She'd been assaulted and strangled. Decades later, DNA and casework tied the homicide to Rodney Alcala, expanding the timeline of his attacks. Friends and relatives remember Jill's curiosity and the way she chased opportunity in a new city. Her story represents a broader, painful truth. Young women arriving in LA with hopes and plans were targeted by a man who hid behind a camera and a fake charm. We center Jill, not him. Charlotte Jean Lamb, murdered by serial killer Rodney Alcala. June 1978, Charlotte Lamb, 32, was found in the laundry room of an El Segundo apartment complex, strangled. For years, her homicide sat among unsolved cases until forensic advances and interagency sharing linked it to Alcala. Charlotte was a mother and a friend with a dry wit and a steady kindness, doing the everyday work of holding a life together. Her death and the long road to accountability reminded investigators how crucial evidence preservation and DNA are for families waiting on answers. We honor Charlotte for the life she lived and the people who still speak her name.